podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
No breaks, no breaks, no fear, no fear. The official British Speedway podcast.
Welcome along. I think effectively this is the second episode in a week of No Breaks, No Fear. It's been fairly quiet on the fixture front though, but we have got a little bit of reaction from Monmore, where the Olympique took place, won by Zach Cook.
Unfortunately, it is the last one, and I had a quick look at the names before the meeting, and there's quite some big names in there, and to add mine in there as the last one, it's pretty special for myself.
Also got chats with Rory, Schlein and Simon Lambert as well ahead of the second leg of the Championship Knockout Cup final against Poole. Also going to bring you an excerpt of Kelvin Tatum's new podcast, where we're reviewing everything that's been happening in British Speedway, but also the Grand Prix, and a little chat about one man in particular.
You know, we ought to be selling this script to Hollywood, because the Chris Harris story is quite remarkable.
And a roundup of everything that's still to come in British Speedway between now and the end of October. All on the way on No Breaks, No Fear.
No breaks, no fear. The official British Speedway podcast.
Welcome along, I'm Ian Brannan, and in this episode, really, we're going to look ahead to all that's coming up in the remaining part of the season, and also look back a little bit on the end of the Sports Insure Premiership season with Kelvin Tatum. I've recorded an episode with Kelvin of his own podcast, which will be coming out later this week, so an excerpt from that to whet your appetite and Kelvin's thoughts. And Kelvin actually revealing his race of the season as well. See if you can guess what it is, but that'll be on the way in a little while. If you haven't yet listened to our previous episode, because we have, as I say, really done two within the last week, really, we had a good chat with all the folks at Glasgow Tigers. Peter Vicenna, one of the co-owners, and of course Chris Harris and Lee Complin as well, about Glasgow's title win. So if you're listening to this expecting us to chat about Glasgow, we've already done it in a previous episode. Go back to that previous one just before this in your list on your app that you're listening on, and you'll be able to catch that there. So all things Glasgow in the previous episode. In this one, though, we're going to start at Monmore, where Wolverhampton's Zach Cook was the winner of the club's final ever traditional Olympique individual event at Monmore Green Stadium. The Aussie, who was a winter signing for Wolves, of course, and enjoyed a fine first season in the Sports Insure Premiership, was one of the standout riders all night long. Even with the unique handicap racing system in place, he still accumulated 11 points from his programmed outings, winning 2 of his 5 rides. And in the grand final, his reactions worked superbly as he hit the front before fending off a late charge from Wolves teammate Rory Schlein. Bellevue's Tom Brennan recovered from a hefty fall in his opener to win 3 of his next outings before securing a rostrum finish, with home rider Luke Becker finishing 4th. Well, the winner, of course, was Zach Cook, and Zach has been speaking to Ryan Guest.
Well, Zach Cook tonight, obviously the last ever Olympic individual here at Monmore Green. No doubt you've seen some of the names on the trophy, but how does it feel to win that final Olympic here at Monmore? Yeah, as you said, it's pretty special. Unfortunately, it is the last one, and I had a quick look at the names before the meeting, and there's quite some big names in there, and to add mine in there as the last one, it's pretty special for myself. I know there's still obviously the final meeting next Monday, but nevertheless, your first season in the top flight of British Speedway here at Wolverhampton, and it's a nice way to cap that off on an individual basis. Yeah, I've had fun here. I didn't know how well I would adapt to the track at the start of the year when I came here, but I've loved it all through the season, and to end it off like this, I'm happy. The unique handicap format as well, probably something relatively new to yourself as well. How did you find it with these boys on this track? Yeah, it was a bit confusing at the start, but I didn't really know how it worked, and it's different, but it's a bit of fun, and something out of the ordinary, which is good. Yeah, and we've talked about your time settling in here on the track itself, but as a club, what have you made with your time with the Wolves? Yeah, I've loved it. The team itself, they're a great bunch of lads, and we all got on well and had a good year, and unfortunately missed out in the final, but it was good fun, and the club itself, they're unreal. Fans here have been so good, and unfortunately, as you said, it is the end of its era, so hopefully next week there's a big crowd here to send it off and for one last time.
Yeah, well done to Zach Cook winning the Olympique at Monmore. Not the last ever fixture, though, as was touched on in that piece. The final meeting will be next Monday, bringing down the curtain on an incredible 95 years of Speedway at Monmore Green Stadium. Obviously, there's been breaks in between here and there, but 95 years since the first meeting, and it'll be the last on Monday. The We'll Meet Again trophy, which is going to be hotly contested, and we'll run through the lineup as it stands for that very soon. But first of all, let's hear from one of the real stalwarts of Wolves over the years. He was riding in that Olympique, but he's also going to be involved in that farewell meeting. Rory Schlein with Ryan Guest.
It's going to be an emotional night here next week. It's pretty hard to think that this track's not going to be around after next Monday, isn't it?
No, I think you've seen tonight. We had, for a slick track, we had some good racing, and I think it's starting to hit everyone. And I just said on the BBC, I think we've got to treat it a little bit like a funeral in a way, but in a celebrational kind of way. No doubt people have been to funerals before, but I just think this one, we celebrate what we've had. Yeah. We know we can't have it anymore. And I think that's just the way we should spend that night. And as long as everyone's safe, everyone has a good time, I think everyone will enjoy themselves.
Whether as a home rider or an away rider, you've always enjoyed your battles and your visits here.
Oh, yeah. As an away rider, especially riding with Cov, this was the hardest place. And we were always told, as a Coventry rider, this is the fixture. That was the derby. And, I've had some right battles with PK, Michael, Freddie, Ty, so this was always a hard place to come to, but I enjoyed it every time as a away rider and as a home rider. Always so glad I got the opportunity to ride here with CVS and Pete. I don't regret it, and have enjoyed every minute of it.
Yeah, and like you say, a lot of memories from this track as well on the Wolves front. I know you came in 2017, obviously the grand final heartache, and haven't quite managed to get near it since a couple of disappointing semi-final exits, but nevertheless it's always been a solid outfit you've been a part of, really.
It's been part of the makeup, really. Pete and CVS just put a team together that are always there. I think we should have accomplished a bit more. But, at the end of the day, I've enjoyed every year that I've ridden for them. Whether, we've bowed out in the semis or, especially the 2017 one, that hurt for a while, that stung for a bit. But at the end of the day, that was just part of what Wolves is about. And, I still remember that year. We lost Freddie, we lost Jacob, but we still banded together and we went to Swindon and beat Swindon, and we just... unfortunately, they did it to us in the return leg. So, yeah, for me, many great memories. Had my farewell here. Yeah. But when I came here, as a Coventry rider, I know in the past there's been riders from Cov to come here. The fans just took to me straight away. It wasn't as if, I had to earn their respect or earn it. They just sort of knew as soon as I put the Wolves jacket on that I was going to give, everything. And... I'd like to think I've become a bit of the furniture and like a comfy old seat. So it's going to be a shame, but, we'll enjoy the next meeting.
And on a separate note, obviously you came back from retirement, made the decision to pick up the phone to Wolves first, and they brought you in here. So looking ahead to next season now, any early thoughts in mind?
Not really. I've sort of just wanted to get to the end of the year. I've been very busy, struggled a little bit with the logistics, but... I think we'll get to the end of the season, going on holiday in a couple of weeks, so go there and see what I want to do. But, after tonight, that sort of reignites the fire a little bit. Can mix it with the young lads and we'll see. I'm in no rush really to delve straight into see what we're doing next year yet.
So not ruling out Premiership racing, but a chance of seeing what comes your way, maybe?
Maybe. I think it's British Speedway. I think in the top flight's in a bit of a... here and there sort of state, so if something comes along and it's right for me, then I'll consider it.
Rory Schlein, who, of course, a Wolves legend, and from what he's saying there, I think we can assume that he's likely to be part of the farewell to Wolverhampton Speedway on Monday coming up. That's the 23rd of October. The premise of it is the 2023 Wolverhampton Wolves versus a team of Wolves at heart. So a lot of riders involved with a connection with Wolves over the years. We can tell you that Jakob Torsell and Kyle Howarth, who won the league with Wolves in 2016, are definitely involved in that. The full lineup will be revealed very soon indeed. But, a lot of riders with a Wolves connection involved. Something very important, though, about this, that if you fancy going to this fixture, you need to have bought a ticket at another match sometime this season, and this is because of the reduced capacity that Wolves have now from the council. So it's what they don't want to do is, the hardcore fans, the ones that have been there all the time, not be able to get in at the expense of people who have come from across the country who have never been there before, because they want to be part of this particular event. So I know if you've always wanted to go to Wolves and go to Monmore, you might be disappointed about that. But if you can produce a readmission ticket that had been issued during this season to any meeting, then that's who's going to be getting in. So really it's for people who have been to previous meetings. Under normal circumstances, of course, they would love to welcome as many people as possible, but there is a limit on how many can get in, and they don't want the long-standing, loyal supporters denied entry on what's going to be a very emotional evening as well. So that is the situation for the Farewell to Wolves meeting, which it's the final event ever at Monmore on Monday. And good luck to everybody who's going to be lining up and taking part in that. So from one fixture involving Zach Cook to another, because switching tack to the Cab Direct Championship, the Knockout Cup in the Cab Direct Championship still very much up for grabs between the Scunthorpe Scorpions and the Poole Pirates. And Scunthorpe edged a 4-point advantage at the halfway stage of the Championship KO Cup final. 47-43, the home side won over the Poole Pirates on Sunday. Neither side could record a single 5-1 throughout the first leg at the Eddie Wright Raceway, with the Scorpions seeing an early advantage of 6 points pulled back as the Pirates levelled by Heat 10. 2 home 4-2s followed in the next 2 races, with the final 3 shared, leaving the tie in the balance for the return to Wimborne Road, which is going to be on Saturday now, what with the storm coming in and everything. So Saturday for that, where the Scorpions total scores of 41 and 45 on their last 2 visits. Of course, the last visit went down to a superheat between the 2 teams as well. So finally poised, Ryan Douglas top scored for Scunthorpe with 13, whilst reserve Drew Kemp notched 10+1, and Zach Cook, that man again, collected an impressive 14 points from 6 rides for the Pirates, with Richard Lawson on 10. And Zach Cook, we heard from him earlier, but also speaking about that fixture, the second leg between the Pirates and the Scorpions. Can the Pirates hold on to the Knockout Cup, which they've won for the last 2 seasons? They were trying to make it a hat-trick. Here's Zach Cook with Ryan Guest.
Well, Zach Cook looking ahead to the second leg of the Knockout Cup final in the Championship, trailing by 4 points. What are the boys' thoughts heading into the home leg?
Yeah, we knew we just need to keep it close up at Scunny. They're obviously a solid outfit around there, and if we kept it fairly close, we know what we're capable of doing at home anyway, and it's not over yet. So, just go back down at Poole on Saturday and try and get that lead back in the first heat.
Yeah, obviously you've said you know what the Pirates are capable of around Wimborne Road, but in that semi-final group, Scunthorpe also showed their liking for the place as well, didn't they? Yeah,
that's right. You can't count anyone out really, but if we're all sort of clicking on the one night, we're more than capable of it, But we run the 6-man team at the moment with the enders out, but just everyone chipping in doing their thing, we should be right.
After the disappointment of the grand final against Glasgow, how not nice was it to have a meeting afterwards, but nevertheless to be able to get back out on track and take out a few of the frustrations at least?
Yeah, that's right. Obviously that meeting didn't go to plan, but it was nice to sort of get out there and sort of try and forget about it and not have to think about that for 4 months, but sort of put that behind us. But it's probably a bit of fire we needed for this Knockout Cup we want a bit of revenge and get one more trophy at least for the year.
I was going to say BSN series already in the bag, and like you say, it would be a nice way to finish the season, because there has been a lot of positive stories to come from the Pirates this term.
Yeah, definitely. We topped the league and the BSN trophy, but fell short of the league. But try and do what we can in the Knockout Cup and give the fans something to be happy about.
Zach, wishing you and the Pirates all the best.
Thank you.
The Pirates looking to make it back-to-back wins in the Knockout Cup in the Cab Direct Championship. Standing in their way then, the Scunthorpe Scorpions. And, they've got a slender advantage, which, based on their last appearance at Wimborne Road, that would have been enough, actually. And surely the Scorpions, with some good close fixtures at Wimborne Road earlier this season, must fancy their chances. Here's captain Simon Lambert.
Well, Simon Lambert, first and foremost, it was a 4-point win over the Poole Pirates in the Knockout Cup final at the Eddie Wright Raceway, and a nice way to round off the home campaign there.
Yeah, first time this year we beat Poole at Scunny, so about time really. Shame it wasn't the time before, and we could have made the final for the playoffs, but always next year, and listen, 4 points is 4 points. It's a lead at the end of the day. We're effectively on the front foot the way I see it, so we're not going there. Everybody expects us to do well because we're like the best visiting team there this year, but each day life, every Speedway meeting, it's all different in it, so a lead's a lead, but yeah, we're going there confident and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, like you say, every day is different, but you have got to take some confidence from your previous performances, particularly that semi-final clash at Wimborne Road.
Yeah, of course, but it's like anything in it, you look at Glasgow last time they went to Poole, they got thumped and then only lost by 4 this week, so it is what it is, but we're going there, we're confident, we've got a job to do, we all know what job it is to do, and we're all up for it.
Nevertheless, it would be nice if Scunthorpe could be delivered some success at championship level once again.
Of course, mate, it's about time we put Scunny back on the map and in the town for him, and obviously I'm captain and I'm so proud of that, and I wear my heart on my sleeve with Scunny and see myself there for a long time, so obviously I lift that trophy, mate, and I've been practising.
Yeah, and just how much does it feel that obviously it has been a step in the right direction for the Scorpions this season at second tier level?
It's been massive, it's everything, not being rude, everything comes at an expense, doesn't it, Rob wouldn't hide that, but, we've had the best number one in the league, and I think obviously we all know Dougie's not with us next year, and we wish him well in his success, that the boy's going places, and he's the sort of guy that will remember people like Rob Godfrey and Scunthorpe Speedway, so respect that and best wishes to him, but Rob and his team will work hard to how do you replace Dougie, but it's not all about one rider, is it? There's a bit of talk at the minute and this and that, so yeah, the future's bright I think for Scunny, and it's exciting times ahead for sure.
Brilliant stuff as always. All the best for Saturday.
Cheers, guys.
Simon Lambert, Scunthorpe captain. Well, there will be a difference at number one for the Scunthorpe Scorpions next season with the announcement that Ryan Douglas is going to be leaving the Scorpions and indeed championship level Speedway as well to focus on commitments elsewhere as he looks to progress his career further. Here is Ryan Douglas explaining his decision.
Yeah, well, I'm going up a league next year in Poland to First Division, and obviously it's another step, and if I can make that work, then it's a big thing in my career. And with racing on Friday at Scunthorpe just makes it hard. Obviously racing on a Saturday or Sunday in Poland, can't really spend the time out there you need to be at your best. So yeah, it's not that I wanted to leave, but I'm just taking that gamble and trying to kick on with my career a bit.
So looking at the week ahead then, the Poole Pirates have delayed the second leg of the Championship Knockout Cup final then. It's happening on Saturday at Scunthorpe. Another fixture that's bit the dust is the Alan Graham Memorial, also set for Wednesday. That has been postponed and looks like it's unlikely to be restaged anytime soon because the next fixture at Birmingham will be the Under-19 Championship, which will be next Wednesday. Another fixture for your calendar as well. Remember this, the Championship Jubilee League. The final for that was held over from last year, of course, because we ran out of time. That is finally going to happen. The 2022 Championship Jubilee League final between the Poole Pirates and the Leicester Lions will be getting underway next Wednesday. That's the 25th of October at Wimborne Road. So something to look out for there. That is going to be an interesting one, actually, because they are going to have to build teams specially for the event. So what's going to happen is Leicester are building a team to championship level with a points limit of 40 based on start of season averages versus the current Poole Pirates. So that is basically how it's going to work, but that'll be next Wednesday to finally get that one over the line between Leicester and Poole. So one to watch out for there for your diaries. You see, it's there, and we'll get it done. Okay, in the next part of No Breaks, No Fear, we're going to have a catch-up with Kelvin Tatum. This is an excerpt of his own podcast, which is going to be coming out later this week, with myself and Kelvin, and having a chat, really, about this, end of season, really. We talk about the Grand Prix in the full podcast, but in this bit, I'm just going to share with you the chat about the Premiership and British Speedway in general. So we'll catch up with Kelvin in the next part of No Breaks, No Fear, the official British Speedway podcast.
It's the Holiday Friends and Family Sale at JCPenney, and you're invited. Everyone can take home something extra with their 30% off coupon. That's on top of already great savings across the store, like 50% off essentials to deck your halls and home, and up to 40% off Liz Claiborne, perfect for any get-together. Or use your coupon to save an extra 30% store-wide. JCPenney, make your holidays count. Offers valid on select styles. Store-wide coupon ends 12/3. Liz event ends 12/6. Home sale ends 12/17. Exclusions apply. See store or jcp.com for details.
No Breaks, No Fear, the official British Speedway podcast.
Welcome back. I'm Ian Brannan, and in this section, we're going to hear from Kelvin Tatum. Now, I do another podcast called Tatum Talks with Kelvin Tatum and myself, and there's a new episode of Kelvin's own podcast coming out later this week. So look that one up. Just type in Tatum Talks Speedway in any of your podcast apps, and hopefully you'll find it. So I'm going to play a section of that now. We cover all the Grand Prix stuff, how things ended, Smarslick getting, of course, thrown out of that meeting, and the wildcard picks for next season, and all that stuff is in Kelvin's own podcast. That'll be out later this week. This section is largely focused around the Premiership and British Speedway. And we start off by talking about Bomber. Who else? Chris Bomber Harris, playoff bomber. Is there a finer rider at this time of the season than Chris Harris? And the hand he had in really solving things at the end of the season, because, of course, you couldn't make it up that Bomber would end up with a winner's medal, having then ridden also for Ipswich, and then before that, having a hand in chucking out of the playoffs the side that he was let go from when riding for Peterborough, and that cost Leicester their place in the playoffs. And we start by chatting about playoff bomber with Kelvin Tatum.
We ought to be selling this script to Hollywood, because the Chris Harris story is quite remarkable, and we'll go into that in a bit more detail. But yes, the way Ipswich actually clinched their spot in the top four was extraordinary. I think Leicester sort of panicked a wee bit when they got beaten by Ipswich when we were there, and they'd been on a run of 8 victories, and then they got beaten. And then they made some team changes, and they really sort of lost their way, and they lost their rhythm. And then to go to Peterborough, where Peterborough needed to beat them by, 24 was it? I think it was 24 points on aggregate or something like that.
Yeah, it was a 24-point lead. They needed to get to 34 points on the night. That was the marker they needed to get to.
They didn't do it, and obviously it was dramatic stuff. And of course, a rider that had been released, Chris Harris, by Leicester, then obviously helps, you couldn't write that, then he knocks them out. So Ipswich getting in, it was quite a fantastic journey. They then go on and win the Knockout Cup against Sheffield. So they're on a high. The first Monday, the first leg of the first semi-final is rained off. So the first leg ended up being on the Thursday, and Ipswich, in challenging conditions at Foxhall Heath, put in a really good performance. They looked like they were just going to walk it, 18-point lead after the first leg. To be perfectly honest, a lot of the Bellevue boys just didn't get to grips with it at all. And then the following Monday, obviously we had a double header because we had Sheffield racing at Monmore Green. We were keeping an eye on that. And in truth, I was a bit disappointed that I wasn't at Monmore Green, because I fancied that Ipswich were going to win relatively comfortably with the lead they had. As it turned out, it was quite a remarkable night. They went 22 points behind after 4 races, Bellevue. And when we went to Heat 15, there was just 2 in it. And Heat 15 at Bellevue was the race of the season. Incredible race. Kurtz, Bewley, Seifutinov and Doyle. What a speedway race that was. And what a way to conclude it. And Ipswich hung on and got through by, again, they got in by the skin of their teeth. It was just staggering stuff. And then, of course, Sheffield, with this patch-up team, guests galore, they beat the Wolves by 10 points at Monmore. So the semi-finals were unpredictable, dramatic, and exciting, whereas the previous season they hadn't been. But so yeah, there we are. We've got Ipswich and Sheffield in the final, and I think Bellevue would feel gutted. I think, because having had such a good regular season and then to come just come up short, I would think that they must have felt they must have been down in the dumps about that.
Yeah, and then we moved on to the semi-finals, and of course Ipswich march on, and Ipswich had a job to do against the Bellevue Aces, which, again, another close meeting that turned out to be as well. Sheffield faced Wolves home and away, but the real story was injuries that came into, well, to all sides really in some respects, I think, through the course of the season, but particularly, of course, Sheffield, who lost, I think it was 5 riders, all in all, particularly with Jack Holder, who was replaced by Ty Woofenden, both suffering big injuries on world level events. Tobias Musilak with a broken leg, massive injury at the end of the season. You also had Klaus Wissing out with a knee problem. Dan Julks, of course, still out as well. So really the side was decimated. Robert Lambert came in to the Sheffield Tigers. And, of course, that went down in different ways in different parts of the country, really, with the Bellevue fans saying, oh, it's interesting now that it's okay for him to ride in the playoffs. But, of course, it was a completely different set of circumstances. And then, who else do you call on for the grand final? But that man again, Bomber, playoff Bomber, back to the rescue.
Exactly, and Chris Harris, he actually helped Ipswich through to the final, and then of course he's actually then racing against them in the grand final shootout at Allerton on the second leg. I mean, he had what a performance! He was brilliant at Vauxhall Heath on that first leg against Bellevue. He scored a whole with Jason Doyle out, and he did remarkably well. He did the job that Doyle was going to do. He then did a great job, of course, of riding subsequently. But then, I'm thinking, well, Ipswich have got this lead. Sheffield were a bit shell-shocked after that, they looked a bit down in the dumps. Fair play to them. They never threw the towel in. They were immediately on the front foot at the conclusion of the first leg. I was listening to Josh Pickering in an interview, Simon Stead, this isn't over, and they remained very upbeat. And by golly, did that prove to be the case, because they came out all guns blazing in very challenging conditions. The rain came down throughout the evening in Sheffield, and they just kept coming at them. And really, by about heat 8, Ipswich needed to try and steady the ship. They needed a heat advantage at that midway point just to stem the tide of what the Tigers were throwing at them, but they couldn't do it. They just couldn't do it. And, brilliant performances from Chris Holder had a nightmare first leg. He turned up in the second leg. He rode out of his skin. Pickering was brilliant. Lambert was doing his stuff. And that man again, what's his name? His name is Chris Harris. Chris Harris is out there doing his stuff. Difficult night. It's raining cats and dogs. Harris doesn't care. He's just giving it his all. So this huge turnaround and a dramatic finish. And fair play to the Tigers. Never won it at the highest level. They managed to do it. You had to feel for Ipswich. It was like deja vu, but they couldn't quite save the day in the end. But in difficult conditions, Ian, that was a pretty decent way to finish the season. And the scoreboard kept it really exciting.
Chris Harris has had a tremendous season, and we had an interview with him last week where we talked to him about, the playoffs. I mean, he's great, most meetings, isn't he? You very rarely see him have a bad one, but we said, what is it about the playoffs? And he said, he sort of likes a bit of added pressure sort of brings out the best in him, really. And he's had a terrific season, and he's performed in the high-pressure environments. You know, he won the championship pairs the night before Cardiff with Ben Basso riding for Glasgow. He's won the league title with Glasgow in the championship. He's also helped Sheffield win the Premiership title as well. I know he only rode for them for one meeting, but it was a big meeting. Came second in the world in the long track as well. I think this is one of the best seasons that he's ever had, really, Chris Harris, and he really performs in these high-pressure environments.
Absolutely, and he's proven it. It's not just like in the last year or two. I mean, he's been doing this for over a decade. I remember when Coventry won the league, I think it was back in 2010, he did it then. I mean, he just becomes a gladiator. He just ups his game. It really gets the juices flowing for him. And he focuses in and he produces some stunning performances and real, you know, that bulldog really, you know, never say die attitude really comes shining through. He actually relishes the challenge of a playoff rather than being intimidated by it. And I think, that's why he's always clearly like this year, very high demand. It does then make you wonder why he was released by Leicester.
Do you know what? I think it was a numbers game, and I think, with the loss of Nick Morris, which is where it all stems from. And I don't think Leicester would have made any, or certainly any major changes, were it not for that Nick Morris situation that came along, and one thing led to another, and to make the averages fit, I think they just juggled things round. I think Stuart Dixon has sort of said since then that maybe he might not make that decision again if he had his time again to do that.
I would be pretty confident on saying that he wouldn't. I think the changes he made didn't work. Craig Cook and Richie Worrell coming in, they didn't set the world on fire. Cook obviously had his own personal issues, and that just didn't happen. Richie Worrell, steady rider, probably feeling that he probably thought that he would do a better job than Harris. You know, in Stuart's defence, I would suggest that Chris hadn't had a great run at Leicester. I think he was finding it difficult adapting to the track, his home track. But, you know, it's so difficult. You know, in hindsight, you'll probably think, oh, crikey, I did the wrong thing there, particularly when you look at the form at the back end of the season. But Harris is one of those guys that he never knows when he's beat. He's always going to be trying. So there we are. But yes, Leicester obviously had, you know, you can't legislate for riders sort of failing drug tests. And that made it awkward, but possibly a little bit more patience at that time may have proved to be. But they had other riders like Sedgman sort of lost a bit of form as well. And, you know, to me, they just, after having had that fabulous run, they just seemed to stall a bit. And obviously Morris then being withdrawn seemed to unsettle the team.
Yeah, and that was really where it all stemmed from, as I mentioned before. And Peterborough ultimately having a say in that. And that brings us nicely on to a couple of clubs that unfortunately we're not going to be seeing in action next season. And obviously the hope is for them to one day come back sooner than later. And I know that there's a big plan with Wolves to get that underway as soon as possible, but it won't be in time for next season. So they're effectively at this moment having a year out while they sort out their future. Peterborough, there's been a lot written about them. Let's talk about those two clubs, because always sad when clubs disappear, but particularly the size of those two clubs in question. You know, league winners in recent times as well, leaving the Premiership. Yeah,
exactly, and it's not good news. We've sort of been. Peterborough's been on the sort of a bit of a rocky foundation for some time, shaky foundation for some time. So I don't think that was such a shock, although, as you rightly say, there is still a question mark about it. There is a possibility that it may continue. We will wait and see on that. Monmore, racing at Monmore Stadium, no. And that was a massive shock for that stadium and Chris Van Straten to be informed just as the season was starting that he had to vacate at the end of October. I'm sure that was devastating. And I feel for Wolverhampton. You know, they are a successful team, a professionally run outfit. So let's hope that they can find a new spot and they can come back in years to come. You know, what frustrates me about places like Coventry and maybe potentially now Peterborough, the showground, if they sit empty and then nothing happens there for years on end. We had it at Oxford, where the place didn't have Speedway for 15 years, and now all of a sudden it's all up and running again, and you sort of question why, you know, circumstances. It just seems frustrating that we couldn't have continued to race in those stadiums. So, yeah, not ideal, because we would then go down to 5 teams for the Premiership. So then you have to start thinking about who potentially might come up into the league. Birmingham is being rumoured to come up into the league. I've heard that more than once or twice. You'd probably look at maybe potentially it's a Midland spot, not that far from Wolverhampton. It gives those fans an opportunity to see Speedway on a regular basis. Maybe some of the riders will go there as well. But ideally, you could, you know, we really want more than 6, really, Ian. I think, from my point of view, I'd like to think that you could get 8, ideally. But whether teams like Poole, Glasgow, Oxford will come up, only time will tell. But I would think all these scenarios will be considered.
Well, we had Peter Fasenna on the official British Speedway podcast last week, and he confirmed that Glasgow will be staying in the championship. I know that from speaking to Danny Ford as well, that there's no appetite for the Poole Pirates to go back to the top level of Speedway either. Oxford, I think there is potentially some interest there. Whether they're going to act on it this season or not, I don't know. But certainly I think... you know, if of those 3, if any of them would, I think it probably would be Oxford first. Yeah,
and Oxford, talking to Scotty Nichols, who I've been working with throughout the season on the TV, he rides for the Cheetahs. He says it's a smashing place. You know, the place has been knocked back into shape. It looks good. Nice little track. So don't see any concerns about stepping up in that regard. It's just whether they fancy to do it. I'd like them to come back up because it's nearer my home. It's not such a long journey.
Yes, there is definitely that.
Purely from a selfish point of view. I don't agree entirely with Peter Fasenna's view on the Speedway public will come anyway, and people outside don't know who Ty Wolfenden is or Jason Doyle is. I don't subscribe to that entirely. There is no doubt that at every venue Cy Futenhoff and Doyle go to, and Ty Wolfenden, they put bums on seats. They put bums on seats. Damien Bates, he said that there was a significant rise in the attendances at Allerton and everywhere they went because Wolfenden was riding. So stars put bums on seats. And I think in Glasgow, they would get an upturn in their crowd if they had a Cy Futenhoff or a Janowski or a Wolfenden up there. I don't doubt it. And I think it would generate an excitement.
Yeah, well, it would. And they have actually at Glasgow, they have... had polls before. Obviously, Marcia Novak has been with them for a couple of seasons, and that has brought in undoubtedly some Polish fans. I'm sure Vadim Tarasenko's done a similar job as well. So I'm sure that it would bring in it. I think it's just versus what they would normally get when they're competing against football matches and stuff like that. Maybe is also the other question too. If Glasgow ever did move up to the top league, Kelvin, I mean it's a long way for you to go. You'd have to fly, get the old private jet out.
Oh, no, without question. I'd have the private jet all fueled up and rearing to go. I think I'll just pop down to Shoreham 5 minutes down the road and just pop along. No, that would be a flight, definitely. But I'd love to go back there. We went there a few times when I was working with Sky. Fantastic stadium. The Fasennas have done a brilliant job there. They invested heavily. And they take it seriously. And I admire a lot of what they do at Glasgow. I really do. And I'd love to see them in the Premiership. I just think that if they came in the Premiership with a top rider like a Janowski or a Wolfenden, that type of rider, I think that they would see an upturn in crowds. But I get the race night also. It's a valid argument. You know, people want to go at Fridays or a Wednesday. They don't want to go on a Monday or a Thursday. But how that can be overcome, I'm not entirely sure. That's not for me to decide. But I would like to see Glasgow in the Premiership because, for the reasons I've already stated, it's a good place, good track. They get good racing there. It's exciting to watch Speedway there. So you imagine seeing Saifutinov, Doyle, Janowski, and another, Chris Harris in Heat 13, on a Premiership night. That would be exciting stuff. But sounds like we're going to have to wait for that.
Yeah, they have done a huge amount of work. And I saw a video on YouTube from Glasgow, say 10 years ago, and the place was just, overgrown around the back of the track. Now they've got this nice pits area. It's all done up. There's standing seat. They've got seating on the third bend now, which was never there before. Terrific venue, and they're actually developing it yet further. They were sharing it with the football club. Now the football club have moved out, so it is going to be purely a speedway or a motorsport venue now. And they're actually, over the course of this winter, they're going to rip up the infield and they're going to put in a training track inside the main track. I think it's going to be a 200-metre track on that infield, for kids and youngsters or anyone to come along and practice and learn Speedway. And they're launching a Speedway Academy at Glasgow that's going to run there, and in the hope that they can create their own talent that way and not necessarily have to scour everywhere to find the best riders and have a natural sort of production line in time.
And I think that's fantastic. That sort of initiative in the club and the way they're forward thinking, I think, it's long overdue. And as I say, I credit the Facenas for doing that. And I like the fact that they have remained enthusiastic. They came in some time ago when we went there and they spent all that money and they put a lot of effort in behind it and it paid off. It was exciting times going there. So who knows? I'd like to think in the future that we would see them at the highest level, challenging, at the playoffs and going for a league title. Who knows? But fair play. They've won the championship for the first time. They had to grind away at that. They were knocking on the door for a long time, but they've finally come through. So, and that man Harris at the forefront of everything, and certainly a special moment for him to clinch that as well down at Poole.
I don't know if you've seen the videos. Actually, Chris Harris is not known as Bomber anymore. He was telling me when I did an interview with him last week that he's now known as Cruz's dad, which is his son, who's 3. Cruz Harris has been getting some bike time. He's got a little electric, sort of these Revy bikes, electric. Basically, he's treating it like a speedway bike. He's got a 3-year-old's size Great Britain race suit made. He's got his helmet, he's got his goggles, and he's been out at a few of the meetings. At the Peterborough farewell, they let him do a couple of laps on his little bike around Peterborough before and went from the tapes and everything, and the whole crowd was cheering him on. And now he's got a taste for it. He turns up at events, he's signing autographs, he's asking where his pit bay is, and wants to get changed in the changing rooms with everyone. So he's certainly a chip off the old block, and maybe we're going to be seeing more Harris in Speedway over the years, potentially there.
Oh, well, sounds very much like it. I think he'll probably be doing the SGP4, SGP3, SGP2. He'll be flying through the ranks, but no, it's really sweet that, and it's great. It's a great, nice little touch for somebody. Harris deserves it. I mean, when you think about how long he's been doing it, and he still remains really enthusiastic. And I think it rubs off on people around him. There's no doubt about that. But no, he's had a terrific run of form and had a smashing season. He's had a season that he rightly should be very proud of. So congratulations to him. But I think before we wrap up on this, I'd just like to say well done to Sheffield Speedway. Simon Stead clearly was so determined to win. He pulled it off. They were overjoyed, having come so close the previous year, which was desperately disappointing for them. And the first time in their history winning the Premiership. It's a special moment for that club. So Damien, Mark and Simon and all concerned, Peter Mole. It's a good team of people there.
Yeah, they've been solid all season, up until the injuries, of course. But I think, guests and all this kind of stuff, that's part of the sport. It's part of the skills of the promoters, of the team managers to identify, those replacements as well. And one of those was Chris Harris. And just to round things off, it has been the year of the Tiger, with the Sheffield Tigers and the Glasgow Tigers winning the top two leagues. And what binds them together was the rider to help seal it for both sides, for both sets of Tigers, was, of course, Chris Harris, as we round things off as we started.
Yeah, exactly. Perfect. No, good times. And as I say, brilliant for both of them. So I didn't see the Glasgow one, but the way Sheffield came back, I felt for Chris Louis and Richie Hawkins. That was tough to take, but they were very, very gracious in defeat, and I'm sure they'll reflect on their season with more positives than negatives, that's for sure. And I'd like very much to see, Emil Sayfutdinov has been a joy to watch this year overall. He really has. So, and I know he's very keen to come back. So let's keep our fingers crossed that that can happen.
Kelvin Tatum, and there's more of him on his own podcast called Tatum Talks. If you search Tatum Talks Speedway on any podcast app, you'll find it. Myself and Kelvin also chatting about the Grand Prix series, Kelvin's thoughts on the wildcards for 2024, and much more besides. You'll get that later this week, and probably get that out on Thursday or Friday, I would have thought, so look out for that one. In the final part of No Breaks, No Fear, we'll hear a little chat with Andrew Bain, one of the co-promoters at Workington, who've announced that they are stepping up to the championship. That's in the next part of No Breaks, No Fear.
No Breaks, No Fear, the official British Speedway podcast.
In this final part then, just a roundup of everything else that we've not touched on so far, starting with Workington, who've confirmed they will step up from the National Development League to the Championship next season and bring senior speedway to Northside for the first time. Promoter Andrew Bain spoke in the interval of the National League Riders' Championship to confirm the news.
I'm going to take Workington back where we used to be, where we were in 2018, so next year we'll be back in the championship.
I think we can tell by the cheers that the fans are really, really pleased about that. Was there any reasons for you going up? Because I think halfway through the season you still wanted to stop in the National League.
Yeah, I wanted to stay in the National League, but then, the BSPA have been in talks with us on that, and they want us to go up, so yeah, and I think give fans some of the bit extra, and we're going to go and do it.
Well, certainly, and when you think of next season, you're going to have the likes of Glasgow, Edinburgh, Berwick, Redcar here for local derbies as they are such. That is such a big draw for you, isn't it?
Yeah, it's going to be a good draw. Hopefully we'll get plenty of away fans coming and that, and it'll be some good racing.
The word of Northside Arena is getting out there and about how good the track is and how good the racing is.
Yeah, everywhere you go, you hear fans talking about it and how good it is and how good the racing is, and I just want to keep on progressing.
Working to making the step up. Well, also stepping up was Connor Bailey, because at that meeting he was the champion of the National Development League, winning the NDLRC with a 15-point maximum on his home track of Workington. The class of the field on the day, roaring to 5 straight wins to finish 3 points clear of the Edinburgh duo Max Clegg and Jacob Hook on 12. Clegg winning the runoff for second place. Speaking after the meeting then, the new champion Connor Bailey had a chat with Hayley Bromley on BSN.
Yeah, no, it's been a good meeting. I made 5 gates, which is unheard of for me, so that's positive, I guess. And track was really nice and the bike was working, so did what it needed to do, didn't it?
Absolutely. Well, if anyone knows the quickest way around this circuit, it's yourself. You are the track record holder. You stormed to a 15-point maximum to earn your crown. What a year it's been for you.
Yeah, it's a nice way to sign off. I've still got the one meeting to go at the Silver Helmet, but yeah, it's a good way to sign off for Workington and see the season out. I've enjoyed riding in front of them every week and just putting on a good show. It's such a nice track to ride, and I've enjoyed every second this year.
Absolutely. And how will you be celebrating your latest title win?
I've actually got some catch-up celebrations to do from the under-21, so it might be a bit of a double header going on, but no, I do have work tomorrow, so I can't go too hard. We'll see it out, and it's been a good meeting today.
Certainly was good. He was lightning out the starts and sets himself up nicely heading into 2024. So, looking at the week ahead as far as the fixtures are concerned, not many left now in British Speedway, of course. And, bit of a washout for Wednesday. No Speedway on Wednesday. Everything that was planned then has been moved, I believe. Friday, Teesside Silver Helmet is set to take place at Redcar at 7:30. I guess I have to wait and see on the weather, because we do have weather warnings right across the northeast until Saturday morning, I think it is. So we'll wait for confirmation on that one, of course. Watch out for official notification either way on the Redcar Bears social media. On to Saturday, then we've got the Championship Knockout Cup final, the second leg, which has been moved from Wednesday to Saturday between the Poole Pirates and the Scunthorpe Scorpions. There was due to be a fixture for Leicester on Saturday. That's now been moved to Sunday, and indeed Leicester are having a double header on Sunday, starting at 3 p.m. at Beaumont Park, the Pidcock Motorcycles Arena. 3 p.m. First up, we've got the NDL Grand Final between the Lion Cubs and the Oxford Chargers. This is going to be followed by the rearranged second leg of the Knockout Cup Final between the Leicester Cubs and Mildenhall, which was postponed last Saturday. So both are going to be taking place on Sunday. That's because the weather warning, the weather forecast is still set to be a bit dodgy, to say the least, on Saturday. So no action at Leicester on Saturday. It's all happening on Sunday with back-to-back meetings, double header for that one. And then looking ahead to how the rest of things are panning out as far as the fixture picture is concerned. Next Monday, we've got the farewell to Monmore, the Wheel Meet Again trophy, last ever fixture at Wolverhampton. You do need to be able to produce a ticket from a previous meeting to get into that one, just so that the people who have been there and the genuine local supporters, I guess you'd say, get their chance to go in. Or people who have been to a fixture already this season. And then on Wednesday, we've got the British Under-19 final at Birmingham at 7:30, and the Championship Jubilee League final officially brings down the curtain on the season at Poole as well, between Poole and Leicester, 7:30 at Wimborne Road. And that is your lot for this week on No Breaks, No Fear. We'll be back with something next week, potentially, depending on how many meetings actually happen. But if not, we'll certainly bring you something at the end of the season, and also maybe a plan to do something after the AGM, which is just around the corner as well. So we've got a few more episodes still to come on British Speedway's official podcast. And don't forget to check out the previous episodes as well, not least the one from just the other day. It's actually with 2 episodes in a week, really, effectively, this, because on just into the weekend we brought you a new episode with the Glasgow title winners, Peter Fasenna, Chris Harris and Lee Complin. If you've not checked that out yet, that's the next episode in the list after this one. And we'll catch you next time on No Breaks, No Fear.
No Breaks, No Fear, the official British Speedway podcast.
Sports Social Podcast Network.
Did you miss your deadline to renew your Medicaid coverage? You can still send your completed annual review form to Healthy Connections Medicaid. You may be assigned to another health plan, but you can ask to come back to First Choice within 60 days of renewed Medicaid eligibility. It's your family. It's your choice. First Choice is the right choice. Renew and choose us. Visit selecthealthofsc.com/renew to learn more.